Have you ever built the guillotine that cuts off your own head? Have you ever worked 80-hour weeks to train an algorithm that doesn't need sleep, doesn't need health insurance, and definitely doesn't need your stock options? They call it efficiency. They call it progress. But you and I know what it really is. It is theft. It is the moment you realize your loyalty was just a line item on a spreadsheet, waiting to be deleted. If you have ever been treated like a disposable asset by a boss who barely knows how to open a PDF, you are in the right place. Welcome to the Financial Revenge Channel. Here, we do not cry in HR offices. We settle the score using their own rules. Subscribe now if you want to see how the forgotten fight back. This is the story of how I lost $5 million in 5 seconds, and how I got it all back. Chapter 1. The discard. 8:55 in the morning. The San Francisco fog was still pressing against the glass of the Salesforce Tower. I held my morning coffee in one hand and my keycard in the other. It was a Tuesday, a boring, gray, standard Tuesday, or so I thought. I tapped my card against the sensor. Usually it beeps green, a happy, welcoming little chirp. Today, it made a low, dissonant buzz. The light flashed red. Access denied. I frowned. I wiped the card on my blazer and tried again. Buzz, red light. I didn't panic yet. Technology fails. I would know. I spent the last 4 years building the most sophisticated predictive coding AI in Silicon Valley. Glitches happen. Then my phone vibrated in my pocket. One single sharp buzz. It wasn't a text. It was a notification from the corporate email server. I pulled it out. The subject line was 3 words. Notice of termination. I stared at the screen. The preview text was clinical. Effective immediately. Role elimination. Security protocols enacted. The glass doors to the lobby slid open, but not for me. Marcus walked out. Marcus, my CEO, the man who stood at my wedding 2 years ago, the man who told me we were disrupting the industry while I slept under my desk to meet his impossible deadlines. He didn't look at me. He was looking at his iPad, his thumb scrolling rhythmically. He was wearing that navy blue cashmere sweater I told him to buy for the Forbes photo shoot. He looked expensive. He looked unbothered. Marcus, I said. My voice didn't shake. I was surprised by how steady it sounded. He stopped. He didn't come closer. He stayed on the other side of the glass turnstile like I was a contagion he needed to contain. Finally, he looked up. His eyes were empty. Not malicious, just empty, like a camera lens. "We are pivoting, Elena," he said. His voice was smooth, rehearsed. "The board ran the numbers. The AI you built, version 4.0, it writes code 30% faster than the human team. It debugs instantly. It doesn't take maternity leave." He paused, offering a small, pitying smile. "We don't need a lead developer anymore. We need efficiency. You understand?" Efficiency. The word hung in the cold air between us. "You're firing me," I stated. It wasn't a question. "We're letting you go," he corrected. "Security will box up your personal items and mail them to you. Do not try to access the servers. Your credentials have been wiped." He turned to walk away. Just like that. 4 years of my life dismissed in a 60-second conversation in a lobby. But then, my brain shifted gears. The shock faded, replaced by a cold, sharp realization. I looked at the date on my phone. October 14th, 2026. My blood turned to ice. "Marcus," I called out. He stopped but didn't turn around. "Tomorrow is the 15th, I said. He stiffened. He knew. Of course he knew. "Tomorrow is my 4-year vesting cliff," I continued, my voice dropping an octave. "If I am employed tomorrow, my equity vests $5 million in preferred stock. If you fire me today, I get 0. Marcus turned his head slightly, just enough for me to see his profile. He checked his watch. "It is strictly business, Elena. The company needs to trim overhead before the IPO roadshow next week. $5 million is a lot of overhead. I built this company, I said. I wrote the core kernel. I trained the neural net on my own personal archives. And we thank you for your service, he said. He tapped his iPad one more time. You made a great tool, Elena. It's a shame you made it so well that it replaced you. He walked toward the elevator. The silver doors opened, swallowed him whole, and closed. I stood alone in the lobby. The security guard, a man I had said good morning to for 1,000 days, looked down at his desk to avoid meeting my eyes. I looked at my phone again. Access denied. Most people would cry. Most people would scream. Most people would call a lawyer and beg. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I felt a strange sense of calm wash over me. It was the calm of a surgeon stepping into an operating theater. Marcus thought he was a genius. He thought he had timed this perfectly. One day before the vesting cliff, maximum savings, maximum cruelty. But Marcus was a sales guy. He understood revenue. He understood handshakes and expensive dinners. He didn't understand code. He didn't remember that 3 years ago, when we couldn't afford cloud servers, I hosted the entire database on my private cluster. He didn't remember that the API keys, the literal keys to the kingdom that allowed the AI to talk to the internet, were registered to my personal Gmail account because the company credit card had been declined. He thought he had locked me out. I turned around and walked out of the building into the fog. I put my phone in my pocket. You want efficiency, Marcus? I whispered to the gray sky. I'll show you efficiency. He forgot one thing. You never fire the architect until you have the blueprints. And Marcus? He didn't even know where the light switch was. Chapter 2. The Architect. I stood on the sidewalk of Mission Street. Oh, it had started to rain. A light, cold drizzle that soaked through the cardboard of the box in my hands. The box, the universal symbol of corporate defeat. Inside, I had a dying succulent, a chipped coffee mug that said, World's Okayest Coder, and a stapler. That was it. That was the physical sum of 4 years. But upstairs, on the 42nd floor, inside a server room that hummed like a beehive, I had left something else. I had left my ghost. I closed my eyes, and suddenly, I wasn't on the wet sidewalk anymore. I was back in the garage. 2023. The air smelled of stale pizza and overheating CPUs. I remembered the nights. Not late nights. I mean the nights that turned into mornings. I remembered sleeping under my desk on a deflated yoga mat, using my hoodie as a pillow, waking up with keyboard patterns pressed into my cheek. I remembered missing my sister's wedding because the server crashed. I remembered the Christmas Eve I spent debugging the payment gateway while my family ate dinner without me 3,000 miles away. I wasn't just writing code. I was breathing life into a machine. Every line of Python was a neuron. Every database query was a memory. I taught that AI how to think. I taught it how to predict market trends. I taught it how to learn from its own mistakes. I gave it my logic. I gave it my intuition. In a way, I gave it my soul. And then there was Marcus. I could see him clearly in my memory. He was standing on a plastic chair in that garage, holding a bottle of cheap champagne. "We are family!" he had shouted, his face flushed with excitement. He looked at me, right at me, and raised his plastic cup. "Elena," he said, "you are the architect. This equity. This is your retirement. When we go public, you will never have to work a day in your life. We are in this together, the captain and the architect. Family, the most dangerous word in the corporate dictionary. Family is how they get you to accept $60,000 a year when the market rate is $180,000. Family is how they get you to sign away your intellectual property rights for a promise printed on a piece of paper. Family is why I didn't ask for a raise when the Series B funding came in. I took more stock options instead. It is an investment, I told myself. I am building my future. I opened my eyes. The rain was heavier now. A drop of water rolled down my nose. I looked at the Salesforce tower piercing the gray clouds. I did the math in my head. I am good at math. Over 4 years, I had accepted a salary cut totaling nearly $500,000. I did it because I believed in the $5 million waiting for me at the finish line. But Marcus moved the finish line. He didn't just fire me, he robbed me. He stole the time I could have spent with my dying grandmother. He stole the relationships I let wither because I was too busy building the dream. He stole my youth, and now he thought he could replace the architect with the machine she built. He thought the AI was a standalone product, a magic box that just worked. He forgot that a building is only as strong as its foundation, and he forgot who poured the concrete. Height as a taxi splashed a puddle of dirty water onto my shoes. I didn't flinch. I looked down at my box. Then I looked at the coffee shop across the street. The Blue Bottle Coffee where I used to sit for hours, writing the core algorithms on their free Wi-Fi because our office internet was down. Wait, a memory flashed in my brain. Sharp, clear, dangerous. 3 years ago. The office internet was down. We had a deadline. Marcus was panicking, sweating through his shirt. "Fix it, Elena! Just fix it!" he had screamed. So I did. I bypassed the corporate firewall. I routed the entire neural network training module through my own private cloud account, my personal AWS account, my personal GitHub repository. I never migrated it back. Why? Because we were family. Because I was too busy working to do the paperwork. Oddest because nobody asks the architect for the keys to the house she is living in. A slow, cold smile spread across my face. It wasn't a happy smile. It was the smile of a predator realizing the cage door was unlocked. Marcus had the furniture. He had the logo. He had the office with the view. But I realized, standing there in the rain with my wet cardboard box, I still had the foundation. I walked toward the trash can on the corner. I threw the dying succulent inside. I threw the world's okayest coder mug on top of it. It shattered with a satisfying crunch. I didn't need souvenirs. I pulled out my laptop from my backpack. It was dry, it was charged, and it was connected. Marcus wanted to cut costs. Marcus wanted to erase me. I was about to teach him the most expensive lesson of his life. I walked into the coffee shop, ordered a double espresso, black, and opened my terminal. It was time to see if the house could stand without the architect. Chapter 3. The autopsy. My apartment is 300 square feet. It smells like old books and instant ramen. The rent is $3,000 a month. That is the San Francisco tax. I sat at my desk, a folding table from IKEA that wobbled if I typed too hard. Marcus had a corner office with a view of the Bay Bridge. I had a view of a brick wall. I didn't cry. Crying is biology. What I needed was pathology. I opened my laptop. The screen flickered to life, casting a cold blue light on my face. "Let's see what you left behind, Marcus," I whispered. I wasn't hacking. Hacking implies breaking in. I didn't need to break in. I built the house. I still had the keys. I just needed to check if the locks had been changed. I started the autopsy. Exhibit A, the motive. I pulled up my employment contract from the cloud drive. I scrolled to page 14, paragraph 3, vesting schedule. 4-year cliff ending on October 15th, 2026. Tomorrow. Marcus fired me exactly 24 hours before $5 million became mine. In the legal world, this is called bad faith termination. It is a breach of the implied covenant of good faith and fair dealing. Strike one, Marcus. You didn't just fire me. You handed me a lawsuit on a silver platter. But lawsuits take years. I don't have years. Exhibit B, the infrastructure. I opened the AWS billing console, Amazon Web Services, the backbone of the entire company. I logged in. My password still worked. Why? Because I was the only one who knew it. I looked at the billing method. Visa card ending in 4298. My personal credit card. 3 years ago. See, the company card was maxed out. Marcus begged me to put the server costs on my card, just for a month. He never changed it back. Strike 2. The entire AI infrastructure, the brain of a $10 million company, was running on a personal account paid for by a disgruntled ex-employee. Exhibit C, the dirty laundry. This was the big one, the nuclear option. I queried the database training set. The screen filled with names, real names, social security numbers, medical history. Marcus had ordered us to move fast. He said scrubbing the data would take too long. Just train the AI on the raw data, he said. Nobody will know. I looked at the screen. This was a violation of the GDPR and the CCPA. If I reported this to the European Data Protection Board, the fine would be 4% of the company's global revenue. Strike 3. Oh, he wasn't just unethical. He was a criminal. Exhibit D and E, the connective tissue. I checked the code repositories on GitHub. The core libraries, the specific algorithms that made the AI unique, were hosted in a repository named Elena Private. They were forked into the company project, but the original source code, the intellectual property, it was registered to me 2 years before I even signed my contract. And the API keys, the little digital handshakes that allowed the app to talk to Google, to OpenAI, to the payment processors. I checked the settings. Registered admin email, elena.code@gmail.com. Not the corporate email, my email. Strike 4 and 5. He fired the owner of the intellectual property. He fired the owner of the connection. Exhibit F, the crown jewels, finally. I typed one last command. Sudo it-L. This checks for super user privileges. Root access, the God mode. The terminal blinked back. User Elena has all privileges. I checked the other users. User Marcus, read only. User admin, disabled. I leaned back in my chair. The cheap IKEA table wobbled. Marcus thought he had cut the cord. He thought he had severed the limb to save the body. But looking at this screen, I realized the truth. He didn't fire an employee. He fired the server host. He fired the IP holder. He fired the data protection officer. And he fired the only person with the root password to the encrypted database. I wasn't outside the castle walls, Marcus. I was the foundation the castle was built on. I looked at the clock. It was 11 p.m. The demo, the big presentation to the investors, was scheduled for 10 a.m. tomorrow. I had 11 hours. I didn't need to destroy the company. That would be illegal. I just needed to leave. Fully, completely, legally. I cracked my knuckles. You want me gone, Marcus? I said to the glowing screen. Let's see what happens when I actually leave. Chapter 4. The Silent Trigger. Revenge is not loud. It does not look like a car chase or an explosion. Real revenge is quiet. It is a legal document sent at 2 a.m. It is a checkbox unchecked. It is the sound of a server fan slowly spinning down to silence. I sat in the dark. The blue light of the monitor was the only thing keeping me company. I could have typed delete all. I could have wiped the database. It would have been easy. It would have felt good for about 5 minutes. But then I would be the villain. I would be the disgruntled employee who destroyed property. Marcus would sue me and he would win. No, I am not a vandal. I am a landlord, and the tenant has stopped paying rent. I opened my email client. I composed a new message. To Marcus@neuralnet.com, CC legal@neuralnet.com, BCC my personal attorney. Subject, Notice of Intellectual Property Revocation and Access Termination. I typed the body of the email. I didn't use emotional words. I used the language of the contract Marcus signed but never read. Dear Marcus, per the terms of my termination effective today, I am hereby removing all personal property from the company premises. This includes my physical belongings, which security has already boxed up. However, it also includes my digital property. Please be advised that the AWS cloud instances, the GitHub repositories labeled Elena Private, and the API keys registered to my personal email are my sole intellectual property, used by NeuralNet under a revocable license. Since my employment, and thus the license, has been terminated, I am revoking access to these assets effective in 48 hours. Please migrate your data immediately to company-owned servers to avoid service interruption. Regards, Elena. I read it twice. It was polite. It was professional. It was a death sentence. I moved the cursor to the send button. My finger hovered over the mouse. Your move, Marcus, I whispered. Click. Swoosh. The email was sent. 5 miles away, at a rooftop bar in the financial district, Marcus was celebrating. He was holding a glass of 20-year-old scotch. He was surrounded by the yes men, the junior VPS who laughed too hard at his bad jokes. To the IPO, Marcus toasted. To trimming the fat. His phone buzzed on the table. A single notification. He glanced down. From Elena. Subject, notice of... He didn't even read the full subject line. He saw my name and rolled his eyes. She's still emailing me, he said to the man next to him, probably begging for a recommendation letter or threatening to sue for emotional distress. Sad, the VP said. She was a good coder, just got too emotional. Exactly, Marcus laughed. She thinks she is important. She thinks the code needs her. She doesn't realize the AI is autonomous now. It copies everything. It learns everything. We don't need the architect once the building is finished. He looked at the email again. He didn't see a legal warning. He saw a nuisance. He saw a mosquito buzzing in his ear while he was trying to enjoy his victory. His thumb hovered over the screen. He didn't hit reply. He didn't hit forward to legal. He swiped left, trash, delete. Problem solved, he grinned. He put the phone face down. Now, who wants another round? On the company card. I watched the read receipt notification pop up on my screen. And then, 10 seconds later, nothing. No reply, no panic, no login attempts from the company IP address to migrate the data. He deleted it. I leaned back in my chair. A cold shiver went down my spine. Not fear, anticipation. Marcus thought I was bluffing. He thought the system was his. He believed his own lie that the machine was greater than its creator. He had 48 hours to migrate the data. He had 48 hours to save his company. And he just spent 10 seconds deleting the only warning he was going to get. I closed my laptop. The trigger had been pulled. The bullet was already in the air. It was just traveling in slow motion. I stood up and walked to the window. The rain had stopped. Sleep tight, Marcus, I said to the city lights, because tomorrow, the lights go out. Chapter 5. The Crash. The Ballroom of the Saint. To Regis Hotel was packed. 500 investors, tech journalists, the sharks of Sand Hill Road. They were all there to see the future. Marcus stood on stage. He was wearing a black turtleneck. He looked like a visionary. He looked like a man who was about to close a $10 million Series A round. Behind him, a massive 80-foot LED screen displayed the logo, NeuralNet. Ladies and gentlemen, Marcus boomed, his voice echoing through the surround sound system. For years, we believed that code required a coder. We believed that to build the future, you needed human architects. He paused for dramatic effect. He paced the stage. We were wrong. Today, I am proud to introduce the first fully autonomous AI. It doesn't need sleep, it doesn't need a salary, and it certainly doesn't need equity. The crowd laughed. A few people clapped. Marcus smirked. That was a dig at me. He was mocking the dead. 3 blocks away, inside a Blue Bottle coffee, I put on my noise-canceling headphones. I wasn't watching the live stream. I didn't need to see his face. I knew exactly where he was in his script. I looked at my laptop screen. 4 tabs were open, 4 bullets in the chamber. Tab 1, Amazon Web Services Billing Console. Tab 2, OpenAI API Management Dashboard. Tab 3, GitHub DMCA Takedown Form. Tab 4, European Data Protection Board Whistleblower Portal. I took a sip of my espresso. It is 10 a.m., Marcus, I whispered. Time to pay the rent. 10 a.m., on stage, Marcus raised his hand. Let me show you a live demo. Neural net. Analyze the real-time stock market and predict the closing price of Tesla. In the coffee shop, I clicked tab 1. A cancel subscription. Confirm. The credit card was removed. The AWS instances, the lungs of the company, began to shut down. 10:01. The giant screen behind Marcus swirled with beautiful graphics. The AI voice responded smoothly. Analyzing market data. Please wait. It was running on cached memory. The ghost was still walking, even though the body was dead. In the coffee shop, I clicked tab 2. Revoke all API keys. Confirm. The brain was lobotomized. The connection to the outside world was severed. 10:02. Marcus smiled at the crowd. As you can see, the speed is unparalleled. Suddenly, the swirling graphics froze. The smooth hum of the audio glitched. In the coffee shop, I clicked tab 3. Submit DMCA takedown. Request. Proof of ownership attached. Send. The skeleton was dissolved. GitHub locked the repositories. The code was now officially stolen property. 10:03. The screen on stage flickered black, then blue, then red. The audience murmured. A nervous tension filled the room. Marcus tapped his microphone. Just a momentary lag. The Wi-Fi here is terrible. He laughed nervously. Nobody laughed back. Neural net, Marcus commanded, his voice cracking slightly. Reboot and give me the prediction. In the coffee shop, I clicked tab 4. Submit GDPR violation report. Evidence attached. Send. The police were called. 10:04. On the giant screen, the error message didn't appear in small text. It appeared in 72-point font, bright red against a black background. It wasn't a 404 not found. It was a specific error message I had hard-coded into the root directory 3 years ago for this exact moment. The AI voice spoke, but it wasn't the smooth female voice anymore. It was a robotic default system voice. It boomed through the speakers. Critical error 403. The crowd went silent. Marcus froze. He turned around to look at the screen. The text read, Payment required, system halted, reason, owner access revoked. Contact administrator, elena.code@gmail.com. 500 people read my email address at the same time. 500 people realized simultaneously that the fully autonomous AI was actually dependent on a personal Gmail account. The silence in the room was heavier than gravity. Turn it off, Marcus screamed at the backstage crew. Cut the feed! But they couldn't cut the feed. The system was locked in a boot loop, displaying that message over and over again. Owner access revoked. Owner access revoked. I watched the subscriber count on the live stream drop. I watched the stock price of the parent holding company nosedive in real time. I watched Marcus, the man who thought he was a god, shrink into a very small, very panicked man in a turtleneck. He pulled out his phone. He was dialing a number. I knew who he was calling. In the coffee shop, my phone buzzed on the table. Incoming call, Marcus. I looked at it. I let it ring once, twice, 3 times. Then I reached out and pressed the red button. Decline. I closed my laptop. The autopsy was finished. The patient was dead. Now the negotiation could begin. Chapter 6. The negotiation. My phone rang for the 4th time. The caller ID said, Marcus. I took a slow sip of my espresso. It was lukewarm now. I let it ring 3 more times. Why? Because every second of silence on that stage cost him reputation. Every second of silence cost him leverage. Finally, I swiped green. Speakerphone, I whispered. I didn't even say hello. Marcus didn't wait. He screamed. It was a guttural, primal sound of a man drowning. What did you do? The system is dead. The investors are walking out. Turn it back on, Elena. Turn it back on right now, or I swear to God I will bury you. I leaned back, looking at the rain streaks on the window. Hello to you too, Marcus, I said calmly. This is sabotage, he yelled. His voice was shaking. I could hear the echo of a tiled room. He was hiding in the bathroom. This is cyber terrorism. I have lawyers on speed dial. I will have the FBI at your door in 20 minutes. No, you won't, I replied. My voice was flat, bored. You hacked my company. Correction, I interrupted. I stopped paying for my server, the server that hosts your app, the server registered to my name, paid for with my credit card. That's company property. Is it? I asked. Did you reimburse me for the last 3 years? No. Is my name on the contract? Yes. Is the API key linked to my email? Yes. Legally, Marcus, I didn't hack anything. I just canceled my Netflix subscription. It's not my fault you were watching a movie on my account. Silence. Heavy, terrified silence. He knew I was right. He had fired the landlord and expected to keep living in the house. Elena, his voice cracked. The anger was gone, replaced by desperation. Please. The investors, they're leaving. Just give me the password. I'll rehire you, okay? You can have your job back, same salary. I'll even give you a 5% raise. I laughed, a short, dry laugh. I don't want the job, Marcus. I don't want to work for a thief. Then what do you want? He hissed. Name your price. I looked at the notepad next to my laptop. I had written down 2 numbers. Here is the deal, I said. Option A. You hang up, go back on stage, and tell the world your AI is a fraud. Your stock goes to 0. You face fraud charges from the SEC. Option B, he asked quickly. Option B, I fix it. Right now, remotely. Do it, he breathed. Just do it. Not for free, I said. I am no longer an employee. I am an outside contractor, and my rates have gone up. Fine, I'll pay you double your hourly rate. Just fix it. No, I said. You're not listening. I am an independent crisis consultant. My rate is not $40 an hour anymore. I paused. I let the number hang in the air before I said it. My rate is $250,000 per hour. What? Marcus choked. That's extortion. That is the market rate for saving a $10 million company from immediate collapse, I countered. Minimum 4 hours charged up front, non-refundable, paid via wire transfer, immediately. You're insane. I don't have $1 million liquid. You have the emergency fund, I said. The one you showed me last month. The one meant for unforeseen disasters. Well, Marcus, look around. This is a disaster. He was hyperventilating now. $1 million for 4 hours of work? And, I added, there is one more condition. More? My equity, I said. The $5 million in stock you tried to steal from me yesterday. I want you to buy it back. Now. I can't value it at $5 million. The valuation hasn't closed. Fine, I said. I'll give you a discount. $2 million, cash buyout, right now, plus the $1 million consulting fee. $3 million? He whispered. That drains the entire operating account. Then you better hurry, I said, because in 5 minutes the investors will be gone, and that operating account will be worthless anyway. I heard a knock on his bathroom door in the background. Someone was shouting, Marcus! The feed is dead! What do we do? $3 million, I repeated. Sent to my personal account. Once I see the confirmation, I turn the lights back on. You have 60 seconds to decide. I didn't wait for an answer. I started counting. 59, 58. Okay, he screamed. I'm doing it. I'm opening the banking app. I waited. The longest 30 seconds of my life. I refreshed my bank app on my phone. Balance, $4,200. Sent, Marcus yelled. It's sent. Reference number ending in 991. I refreshed again. Balance, $3,004,200. I stared at the number. It was just pixels on a screen, but it looked like justice. It looked like freedom. It looked like the retirement he promised me, paid in full with interest. I see it, I said. Fix it, he begged. Fix it now. Pleasure doing business with you, I said. I hung up. I switched back to my laptop. I opened tab 1. Reactivate subscription. I opened tab 2, Restore API Access. I opened tab 3, Cancel DMCA Request. It took me exactly 4 clicks. Total work time, 12 seconds. A rate of pay, $250,000 per second. I watched the live stream on my phone. The red error screen disappeared. The swirling blue graphics returned. The AI voice came back online, smooth and perfect. System restored. Market analysis complete. Tesla is predicted to close at... The crowd cheered. They thought it was part of the show. They thought it was a dramatic pause. Marcus walked back onto the stage. He was pale. He was sweating. He looked like a man who had just seen a ghost. He forced a smile. He waved to the crowd. But I knew the truth. The man on stage was hollow. His bank account was empty, and the architect he tried to erase now owned his future. I took a sip of my cold espresso. It tasted like champagne. Chapter 7. The Legacy. The wire transfer cleared in 45 minutes. A $3 million? Tax-free? No, but freedom is never free. I walked out of that coffee shop, and I never looked back at the Salesforce tower. I heard the news 2 weeks later. NeuralNet closed their Series A funding. Marcus popped the champagne. He thought he had survived, but money cannot buy trust, and it certainly cannot buy silence. The investors asked questions. Why did the system crash? Why was there a ransom payment on the balance sheet labeled consulting fee? The board of directors launched an internal audit. They found the emails Marcus deleted. They found the lack of IP ownership. They found the GDPR violations I had flagged but not reported. They didn't fire Marcus. That would be too public. They did something worse. They promoted him to Chairman Emeritus. It is a fancy title for a man with no power. They took his voting rights. They stripped his operational control. Marcus now sits in a glass office, staring at a view he can no longer afford, watching a new CEO run the company he built. He is a tenant in his own house. As for me, I didn't buy a Lamborghini. I didn't go to Bali. I bought a building, a small brick warehouse in Oakland. The sign on the door says, The Architects. We are a small team, 10 developers. But here, the rules are different. Every line of code you write belongs to you. Every algorithm is licensed to the company, not owned by it. If I fire you, you take your code with you. If we sell the company, you get paid first, not last. I looked around the office. My team was working, not because they were afraid of me, but because they owned what they were building. I walked to my desk. No corner office, just a desk in the middle of the room. I opened my laptop. A notification popped up, a LinkedIn message from Marcus. Elena, the new CEO doesn't understand the vision. We need to talk. Can we grab coffee? I looked at the message. I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel pity. I felt nothing. I typed 2 words. Access denied. And I blocked him. They tell you that AI is the future. They tell you that efficiency is king. They think they can replace you with a cheaper version. They think they can replace the architect with a blueprint. But they forget one thing. Code is just syntax. It is empty without the human soul to give it meaning. Code does not dream. Code does not have intuition. And code certainly does not have loyalty. Loyalty is a two-way street. If they treat you like a line item, you have the right to be an expense. If they treat you like a liability, you have the duty to become a risk. Never build a castle on land you do not own, and never, ever give the keys to your house to someone who treats you like a guest. My name is Elena. I was a coder. Now I am an owner. And the next time someone tries to delete me, they better make sure they have the password. Access denied.